I've never seen it. I've never seen a kid that was that abused.
Like he didn't want any part of it, like away from his body, and his body was flailed back, and his head was flailed back, and arms were wide open.
Repeated beatings, burning, starving, binding, shooting Gabriel with BBs that were embedded in different parts of his body, knocking his teeth out with a bat, locking him in a dark cabinet while he's bound, and starving this poor child.
This is one of the worst cases of child abuse I've ever heard of in my life. Gabriel Fernandez was 8 years old, and from the time he was returned to his mother's custody to the time of his death, only about 7 months. And they could have easily been the worst 7 months of his whole entire life. October 2012, Gabriel returned to his mother's custody after years with maternal grandparents. His grandparents alleged DCFS employees were negligent. May 22nd, 2013, Gabriel was found barely breathing in his mother's Palmdale apartment. He showed signs of having been beaten, restrained, shot with a BB gun in the groin, and other torture. Okay, we're talking hog-tied, starved. The list just goes on. Warning, this story is not suitable for sensitive listeners or viewers, but it is a true story, however sad it may be. And Gabriel deserves it to be told, so we're going to tell it. These pictures in the background are horrific. While most kids, 8 years old, were playing games, riding bikes, and just being kids, Gabriel Fernandez was struggling to survive and to avoid being beaten and abused. Despite 6 investigations into abuse allegations involving the mother, the Los Angeles County Department of Children and Family Services left Gabriel in the home of monsters. In May 2013, paramedics arrived at Gabriel's house in Palmdale, California, and the child died shortly after being taken to the hospital. According to autopsy reports, little Gabriel died having suffered a cracked skull and 3 broken ribs. His skin had bruises, burn marks, and scars. He had BB pellets embedded in his lung and groin. 2 of Gabriel's teeth had been knocked out of his mouth. According to the LA Times, despite the fact that Gabriel was barely old enough to read and write, he had reportedly written a suicide note. One person, Gabriel's first grade teacher, Jennifer Garcia, tried to save him. Basically had CPS on speed dial, but it didn't do any good. She told him all about the abuse she was aware of.
Little, bullied and called gay. His teeth were knocked out.
All by Aguirre and by little Gabriel's mother, Pearl Fernandez. That's what prosecutor Jonathan Hatami told the jury. And there was so much more.
Gabriel was dying. They were killing him. That's intentional murder by torture.
No cameras allowed in the court today as the older brother of Gabriel Fernandez took the stand. He's now 16 and was identified only as Ezekiel. He was shown the cabinet that Gabriel was forced to sleep in night after night. He called it the box. Question, do you remember seeing the defendant and your mom put Gabriel in the box? Yes, they would put handcuffs on the door to the box. What else? They would wrap a bandana around his mouth. Sometimes they would put a sock in his mouth. Ezekiel never referred to the defendant by name, only as my mother's boyfriend or the defendant. He told the jury about the beatings Aguirre would give his little brother with a belt. My mom's boyfriend hit him with a belt, he said, the metal part. Where? In the arms, legs, back. Sometimes he used a metal hanger. How often? A lot. He then said one time Aguirre hit him with a bat. I saw his teeth get knocked out. I saw lots of blood. And he told the jury how he saw Aguirre shoot his little brother over and over with a BB gun. Question, did you see the defendant shoot Gabriel? Yes. Where? In his legs and arms. What would Gabriel do? Scream and cry. Where else did the defendant shoot Gabriel? In the groin. During his entire testimony, Ezekiel, who was 12 years old when he witnessed all this, never once looked over at his mother's boyfriend. He said he's trying to forget what he saw. And then he told the jury, quote, "The defendant ruined my life. I want to get past it." During cross-examination, he was asked by the defense why he and his younger sister, Virginia, who also testified, why weren't they beaten like Gabriel? He said, "I don't know." But in testimony that the jury heard both yesterday and on opening statements on Monday, they were told that Gabriel's mother and her boyfriend thought that Gabriel was gay, and that's why they beat him. He was 8 years old.
So we always say, why didn't somebody take this kid? Why didn't, family step in? Well, guess what? The grandparents, they had complete custody, care, and control of this baby. And then mama decided she wanted to get, as I understand it, welfare, food stamps. So she came and got him back. Just for those 7 to 8 short months.
Grandfather said that he and his wife, the grandmother, had this little boy in their custody for almost 8 years. And then mom came, his daughter, and said, "I want him back." Fernandez told the court that he and his late wife, who died of complications from diabetes 8 months after Gabriel died in May of 2013, had raised Gabriel for nearly 8 years. They thought they had complete custody of him. Thought they did. Robert Fernandez told the court today that listening to that 911 tape, hearing the voice of his late wife, and knowing that they were talking about his 8-year-old grandson, Gabriel Fernandez, was just too much.
He had swore that he was going to bring Gabriel back, and he did it.
He was talking about the defendant in this case, Isaro Aguirre. Everybody calls him Tony. He's on trial for the torture murder of little 8-year-old Gabriel. Fernandez's daughter, Pearl Fernandez, will be tried separately on the same charges.
Prosecution played for the court the recorded interviews of defendant Isario Aguirre, also known as Tony, conducted by sheriff's detectives in the hours after Gabriel was rushed to the hospital.
So, exactly what happened. Cold hard fact now. You hit him over the head. Okay? And what did she hit him over the head with? Your fist. How many times? Maybe 10 times. Maybe 10 times with your fist to the head.
In the recordings, Aguirre describes how Gabriel made him mad, saying the 8-year-old told his mother, Pearl, that she should leave Aguirre. In the recordings, Aguirre states that he lost control, even admitting that he hit Gabriel harder than he has ever hit anyone before.
You pick him back up and you hit him again. Okay? How many times did you do that? You had to knock him down and pick him up? 4 or 5 times. 4 or 5 times.
Aguirre admits at one point losing count. In their cross-examination, the defense played the video recording of Aguirre's interview with detectives. Aguirre describes trying to revive the 8-year-old when he stopped breathing.
When I took him out, I figured that, bubbles or air bubbles in his lungs. So I told her, give me the phone so I can find out more. She did. So I have the speaker.
The prosecution, however, fought back in their redirect.
Even based on that last interview, did you believe the defendant was telling the whole truth about everything that he did?
No.
So yeah, you heard it right. This big old giant of a man went and confronted this little boy because his mother said that the little boy told her to leave him. And when the little boy, Gabriel, said, "No, I didn't say that. That's not true," or something along those lines, he lost it. That's his story. He lost it. He said on a scale of 1 to 10, he went to 20 and started beating that baby. In the body, in the head, closed hand, open hand, and then mom joined in and helped. And he didn't look sincere when he was talking about doing compressions and calling 911. I damn near saw a smirk on his face. Or maybe I just don't care if he's sincere. Because he did this. It's disgusting. And it's happening way too often. And after all you've seen so far, and all that you may have already known about this case, I hate to tell you that, well, there's got to be a defense, right? And this defense tries to paint this man up to be, I don't know, a good guy. Because he used to work with elderly or some shit like that. Excuse me. But all that goes out the window for me when you do dirt like this. When you hurt a child, when you're a pedophile, you know. You get no love and no support from me. However, I'm not a defense attorney, and it is their job. Check out how the defense tried to play it.
Of course, the big intriguing question is when your own defense attorney says that you committed the crime, but you didn't intend for that person to be killed, it's always a wonder how they're going to be defending that person. Well, today we found out. It was through a video that was played in the sheriff's department, and for the first time it was played publicly. The jury saw a video of 37-year-old Isaro Aguirre, the defendant, crying when he was being questioned the night that Gabriel died. Aguirre is on trial for murder with a special circumstance of torture, meaning he could get the death penalty. His girlfriend, Gabriel Fernandez, the mother of a little 8-year-old Gabriel, will be tried separately on the same charges, murder and torture. The defense claims that during this interview, Aguirre kept asking detectives, "How's Gabriel doing? Can I go see him at the hospital?" He kept asking that over and over again. The defense contends that this is important because it shows that Aguirre cared for the little boy. Sure, they claim, he did beat up Gabriel. He did hit him. He did kick him. But
he never meant for Gabriel to die.
That's what Aguirre's attorney told the jury during opening statements, that Aguirre did commit murder. But he also told the jury that the special circumstance of torture, which could lead to the death penalty, does not apply here because Aguirre did not intend for Gabriel to die. According to sources, right after Aguirre was arrested, he told detectives it was all Miss Fernandez. She was the one that tortured 8-year-old Gabriel, not him.
In my honest opinion, Mom should have gotten the same thing her boyfriend got. Absolutely 150% death penalty. But I don't make the laws.
It's over. There will not be a trial. A jury will not have to hear what you describe. Can only be gruesome testimony of how a mother simply mistreated her 8-year-old son to the point that he died. He was tortured, and it was some testimony at the trial of her boyfriend that literally turned your stomach. But that won't happen again because she confessed to it all in court.
Is that correct, Defendant Gabriel Fernandez?
Yes.
And with that soft yes, 34-year-old Gabriel Fernandez, the mother of 8-year-old Gabriel Fernandez, pleaded guilty. Guilty to willfully and knowingly killing her son and torturing him.
Do you fully understand the plea?
Yes.
By pleading guilty and not having a trial, Ms. Fernandez will not face the death penalty. Her plea agreement stipulates that she will never file an appeal and she will spend the rest of her life in state prison. No chance at all of parole.
I knew in my heart that she was doing what he said she was doing.
Jennifer Garcia, Gabriel's second-grade teacher, recalling a parent-teacher conversation she had with Gabriel Fernandez in the fall of 2013.
We're talking about, his reading level or something, or, his report card. And she said, "Because I don't hit my kids." And she said, "Because I don't hit my kids, I make them do exercises."
But the evidence does show, and now Ms. Fernandez admits it, she did hit Gabriel over and over again. So much so that he died from the abuse in May of 2013 at the age of 8.
Are you relieved that there will be no trial involving Gabriel Fernandez?
I don't know if I can answer that question.
And after a brief pause, he answered it this way.
I'm relieved for the fact that that testifying in front of their mom would have been incredibly traumatic.
He was referring to the older brother and sister of Gabriel Fernandez, who testified at the trial of Gabriel Fernandez's boyfriend, Isaro Aguirre, who was found guilty of the torture murder of Gabriel and who was given the death penalty. Testimony in that trial was brutal, and the older brother and sister would have had to testify a second time, but not now.
And you're satisfied that justice has been served here?
Yes.
Gabriel Fernandez looked straight ahead in court today, never looked around, showed no emotion, and didn't shed any tears.
I understand the ambivalence when they asked him the question of whether or not, he basically could appreciate the plea deal. I hate plea deals when they get criminals off the hook. However, you really roll the dice when you deal with a jury. And they were gonna try to go with something about her IQ being low, and she couldn't tell right from wrong. And you never know who's gonna be on that jury, and which one of them would empathize. And you end up with a heifer like this getting off. So sometimes to just nip it in the bud. I mean, they did it right. If you're gonna do a plea deal with somebody as guilty as she is, you got to throw the book at them. And they did. Life in prison. Don't even ask us for parole, probation, nothing with a P, right? She can't ever get out. So I guess I have to be happy with that. But I do think it is fair that both of them should have gotten the same sentence, the death penalty. I mean, they did this together, and she was his mother. My God. And they're right. No emotion. No tears. Where have we seen this before? Oh, in The Guilty Parents. Yeah, she admitted she was guilty, so there's no question there, but notice the similarities. I like to point them out. She never showed emotion, even when she read this sorry-ass piece of a apology letter or something that she wrote to her remaining children and whoever else was listening. Crap. Zero emotion. Where do these people come from? Like, do you just turn into this person? Is it genetic? Is it... I mean, I didn't hear anything about drugs in this case, so, I mean, if it ain't one thing, it's another. How are these people made?
I want to say my family for what I did. I want to say I'm sorry for this, what happened. I wish Gabriel was alive. Every day I wish that I made better choices. I'm sorry to my children, and I want them to know that I love them. And I hope one day they will forgive me.
And so the Rhonda family, they've never known my son. And they just want something on the news because they only went to only a certain party only. So,
is she serious right now? I want to know. Is she freaking serious right now? I'm sorry for this. What happened? Are you kidding me? God, I don't know where these people come from, but I wish they would all go back. Now, is that not the saddest thing you've ever seen before? And yet, he still loves her, even as he writes this note and deals with all these emotions in his little heart and his little head. He still loves his mother. It's just a forever rhetorical question with no answer. Funny, right? But you gotta ask, how? Why? And yes, child services plays a humongous role in this case. And many others. Too many of these stories. You will find at some point somebody, somewhere, saw something. They thought something just didn't look right. Just didn't feel right. The crying all night from next door, it just didn't sound right. But did they say something? Will you say something? I sure hope you will. Rest in peace, young Gabriel. You're in God's hands now. God bless you, baby.
Breaking news right now, a judge has just sentenced a Palmdale mother and her boyfriend for the torture and murder of her 8-year-old son.
Yeah, and the judge did not hold back in court today, sentencing them both with some pretty severe penalties and calling their actions evil.
These are the two people who should have protected Gabriel most. And today, the mother was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, and the stepfather was sentenced to death. The judge then went on to say that in all of his years here on the bench, he has never never had a case with such a horrific, brutal killing.
Heard the evidence. I was privy to the photographs, coroner's photographs, the extent of the injuries and what have you. And this almost demands that comment be made about this case. It goes without saying that the conduct was horrendous, inhumane, and nothing short of evil. The repeated beatings, burning, starving, binding, shooting Gabriel with BBs that were embedded in different parts of his body, knocking his teeth out with a bat, locking him in a dark cabinet while he's bound, and starving this poor child. It is unimaginable the pain that this child probably endured. And from what I heard, Gabriel was a kind, loving individual who just wanted to be loved. And so, you want to say that the conduct was animalistic, but that would be wrong. Because even animals know how to take care of their young, some to an extent that they will sacrifice their own lives in caring for their young. I remember seeing years ago a report on the news that and this at least sent the point home to me about animals, and there was this cat who had given birth to a litter of cats, and the house wherein the kittens were in was on fire. And that's why I think it made the news, because the fire department was trying to put the fire out, but each time the mother went in to retrieve a kitten, and she would emerge from the house by the scruff, holding a kitten by the scruff, and would manage one by one to bring him or her to safety. And the last time, the house was lost, and the fire department tried to keep this cat from going into the house, but it managed to elude them, went into the house, and they thought, well, she's lost. And I never forgot thinking she made it out of the house. She had the cat by the scruff, except that she was singed and burning her face. But the thing that really struck me was the cat was not blind. The intensity of the heat burned her eyes, but she never let go of that kitten. And so when you want to say, first instinct is to say, you know what, this is animalistic. No, it's beyond animalistic, because animals know how to take care of their young. You know, I can only wish, I really do, that you both, in the middle of the night, you wake up and you think of the injuries that you subjected this poor young man, this poor 7-year-old, and that it tortures you. I rarely say that. I rarely say that. It'll be a different type of torture, because you won't be in pain, physical pain. But I'm not sure that you're capable of doing that. But that's my wish.
Aguirre was found guilty by a jury. They recommended the death penalty. It's rare in California. The last execution here was 11 years ago. Gabriel's first grade teacher also spoke today. She saw signs of abuse, went to authorities trying to get help. Now she says she's racked with guilt and sadness.
For the last 5 years, Gabriel has been number 28 in my classroom. I don't assign number 28 to another student because I feel that it's only his number now. And it's a way for me to honor him in my classroom. It almost makes it like he's still here. I find comfort in believing he is now at peace.
Gabriel's biological father, who is serving time for robbery and other charges, was brought into the courtroom, says he feels guilty. He said that in the past for not being there for his son. He asked to watch the sentencing in his cell. Gabriel's death sparked outrage across the Southland. It spurred changes within both law enforcement and child protective services. Unprecedented criminal charges were also filed against 2 former social workers and their supervisors.
On July 31st, the 4 Child Protective Services caseworkers assigned to Gabriel Fernandez were fired. DCFS Union Representative David Green blames funding for the issue.
I can't tell you how many people I've spoken to that have chosen a career path in social services because they say they want to make a difference. How many people have named their children after Gabriel? My 5-year-old son's middle name is Gabriel.
And there's momentum for Gabriel's law. It would give an officer on an abuse call a way to quickly check for DCFS history and alert the caseworker. The proposal is pushed by Gabriel's cousin, Emily Carranza, who pins blame on Gabriel's social workers.
They had the upper hand. I honestly believe to remove him and save him, but they didn't.
The head of DCFS says since Gabriel's death, the system has been overhauled.
This, we have added thousands of caseworkers, which have increased the capability of us to be able to work very closely with families.
The power for change, Hatami says, is reflected in this growing memorial. Amid the toys and tender mementos, a call to save children before it is too late.
I know that those that have heard or seen his story, at least those people are going to do their part. And that, I mean, I know that children have been saved due to his story.
We still haven't forgotten Gabriel.
His tragic story touched so many lives, and today people in Palmdale celebrated his life at the tree named after him.
Happy birthday, dear Gabriel.
An emotional memorial for Gabriel Fernandez.
We came here to celebrate Gabriel's life. So many people talk about Gabriel's death, but we really came here to celebrate Gabriel's life and just what Gabriel has done for everybody. I could say for me personally, he's made me a better prosecutor, a better father.
I know that his death was not in vain. His death has brought in all of us here together.
Gabriel's family, prosecutors, detectives, even the paramedic who responded that fateful day, all gathering at Gabriel's tree outside his Palmdale apartment to remember an innocent life cut short.
For us, it was a little bit closure to finally meet people that were there that night, that were able to try to save Gabriel. It was emotional. It's hard, but we thank them, and their job is a hard one to fathom, and I don't, we can never thank them enough for what they did.
Gabriel's case igniting calls around the world for justice, especially within the Department of Children and Family Services, which had received numerous complaints about the ongoing abuse. His family and prosecutor on the case committed to keeping Gabriel's memory alive, a symbol of courage and change.
So many people failed Gabriel. So many people. And we have to make sure that doesn't happen again.
There is growing momentum for Gabriel's Law, which would allow an officer on an abuse call to quickly check DCFS history and alert the caseworker.
Please look for the link in the description for the petition for Gabriel's Law. We need it. If you suspect that a child is being abused, please call your local child abuse hotline. You just might save a life.